Snaps good, holds good, kick on the way by Conradi, end over end, and it is good! Kyle Conradi hit a 54-yard field goal, and Iowa State leads it 20-19! Oh my God!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Iowa State Fan Perspective. As always, brought to us by here at Play the Fight Song College Football Show. I'm Jake. I'm joined by my brother, Justin, my co-host each and every single week, and we have a lot to get to and not a lot of time because your Cyclones are 5-0 for the first time since 1980 and are ranked 11th in the newest AP poll this Sunday as Justin and I are recording. Justin, we both had a chance to be in Jack Trice Stadium yesterday for the whiteout. That was TCU was up there for us last year. The West Virginia game in 2019 was another iconic night game that I can kind of remember on the top of my head. But last night, that kind of felt like it was an all-timer. Maybe that'll be one of those that go under the radar that we maybe look back on in a few years. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that game. That was a lot of fun. What are your thoughts on Iowa State's victory last Saturday?
Yeah, the atmosphere was great. I mean, you could feel it. Like, you could feel the energy in the parking lot and the tailgates, like, right away. Like, we were trying to get into town around, like, 1, and the cars were backed all the way out onto the interstate. Like, yeah, the Cyclone Nation had a great showing, and you could really feel the energy there. As far as the last, like, as far as, like, the 4 years, like, when I was at school, like, that game yesterday would have topped any of the games that when I was in school. I felt like once they moved the student section over to that other corner of the end zone, you could never really feel them. You could feel the student section last night. Like, the whole crowd was into it, and it was just a great night.
That's well said. And you also kind of had the short end of the straw because you did COVID while you were in school. Yeah. They moved the student section, and then your senior year was 22, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So
no, yeah. 22.
Probably the most disappointing Matt Campbell season in his tenure. So you got the short end of the straw there. But yeah, if you were a student last night at the game, you guys, that looked like a lot of fun. The student section did their part. And Iowa State in general and the home fans did their part. Sold out. It really felt like everybody stayed in their seats for the entire game, even after things got carried away from Baylor at the end. And there was really no question with about, 8 minutes left in the game. You kind of felt like the game was secured for Iowa State. Baylor's offense had no momentum anymore, and the wheels were coming off on defense. And yeah, Iowa State fans stayed all the way till the end. Unfortunately, no drone show. The drone show, I was very much looking forward to the drone show. I think I saw Nebraska did it for the Colorado game. I think I saw Cam, our co-host at Play the Fight Song, sent me that video or something one time. And yeah, I was a little jealous we didn't get the drone show.
It's all right. It just means we got to have another night game. They can break it out then.
That's true. That's true. They'll probably, the next home game, UCF in a couple of weeks might be another big game. It seems like when you're 5-0, Justin, it really seems like every game is the biggest game. The next game is the biggest game. Would you agree in saying that?
It is for us now. I'd say, like, at this point in the season for Iowa State, it's great being 5-0, first time in 44 years that they've done that. Never been 6-0, right?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, never been 6-0, and from those 5 games, 4 of those are probably going to be 4 of our 5 easiest opponents of the season. So Every game's going to get tougher. Every game's going to mean that much more. But looking forward to it. Couldn't be in a better position.
Yeah, and no other tough game than what Iowa State has on Saturday. If you listened to us last week, yes, Justin and I will be in Morgantown this Saturday. Super excited for it. This is our one road game this year that we kind of do one each and every single year. Justin went to Cincinnati last year. I went to BYU. Cyclones came away with road wins on both of those. So let's hope for kind of the same momentum this year. But I think they got a tough task on Saturday. Kind of, I think they're doing a blackout or something. They're unveiling their new uniforms for West Virginia. 8 o'clock. Yep, 8 o'clock Eastern time over there in Morgantown. So huge opportunity for the Cyclones, but I have a feeling that West Virginia is going to be ready to go. All right, guys, before we really get into the whole episode, we are partnered by our partners over at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. If you join us each and every single week, you know the deal. At the end, Justin and I do the prediction segment, and it's partnered by No Rivals. If you guys give us a score prediction and tell us who's going to win this Saturday, West Virginia or Iowa State, you go 2 for 2 in that section, in the comment section for that. and you're obviously subscribed to us here at Play the Fight Song, we will get you guys a hat over at shopnorivals.com. Go check them out. A lot of cool selections. West Virginia fans, if you somehow found yourselves on top of this video, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope to maybe see some of you there Saturday. And I believe No Rivals does have West Virginia. I believe they do. So
yeah, they do.
Go to the team section. If you don't see your team there, go to request a team. Obviously, Iowa State fans, we got to get our brand there. They have Iowa. We got to do our part and get Iowa State hats soon. So request a team. Let them know we want hats over at Iowa State, and I'm sure they will hook us up because they're doing new hats and new teams each and every single week, and the designs are awesome. So PTFS at shopnorivals.com gets you free shipping. All right, let's cover the Baylor game. As we always do, we recap the win on Saturday. Iowa State gets it done in convincing fashion in the second half and wins 43-21. Iowa State ends the game on a 40-7 run after Justin, yet another slow start out of the gate. Baylor gets on top 14-3. And it wasn't even just the miscues on offense that have had, inconsistencies with their slow starts, but honestly, the defense got torn apart just a little bit by Sawyer Robertson and crew there. They weren't able to run the ball very well in Baylor, but I mean, Robertson was doing a good job in that first half, in that first quarter. Was there any worry from you at any point in that 14-3 deficit?
Yeah, I know we were texting during the game a little bit there. Shout out to the cell service being able to actually text each other at a packed game like that. But I was pretty worried when they were being able to throw it all over us. I haven't seen gaps in our secondary like that, honestly, in the last 2 years. Even like when they struggle, It was a lot of stuff being schemed open, but there were some big gaps being open in that secondary. And I think that kind of stemmed from us not getting any pressure on the pass rush. And once once Big Orange went down, like I was honestly pretty worried, but we hung around, and like you touched on, like being able to keep their run game in check. If you give Heacock in that secondary enough time, they eventually figured it out, and they started drawing up some blitzes that really helped. And coming out of the second half, I was a little worried that they'd be adjusting to those blitzes, but Iowa State figured it out like they kind of always have been.
Shout out to my awesome view in my nosebleed section L on Saturday. Was a little bit far away, and my eyesight's not good enough, so I was misseeing some numbers on Saturday. I know Dom Orange went down in the first quarter. He did come back in the game. I do know that. Caleb Brzezina, I believe, got hurt as well. And we all know about the injury-prone linebackers that we have right now. That we just that group continues to get thinner and thinner. But Coach Haycock always puts guys in good positions to be really efficient. And like I said, they shut down the run game. Baylor's running backs combined for like 60 yards, I want to say. Both running backs didn't get above 30. So that was really good on their part. But yeah, the pass rush was it was a little disappointing, right? Kennard Snyder,
they were getting no push without a blitz. They weren't getting any pressure.
Correct. And Kennard Snyder gets the one and only sack with I think it was the last possession of the game. So really that one didn't even matter. On the other side, Iowa State's offensive line looks pretty good. They gave up 0 sacks. Obviously, you can see on our YouTube here, Jalen Jackson, probably the player of the game. I mean, it's probably not even a question. Rushes for 100 yards, 2 scores. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite running backs in my Iowa State fandom career, just because obviously he has a size differential compared to his opponents, but his ability he's really patient. You can tell he's the older running back in this room between Sama and Hansen just because of his patience. And he uses that to his advantages, and he's super quick. I mean, would you agree that he's probably the player of the game?
Yeah, I was texting you too. I know we were talking about it. I think, as we've talked about, where Campbell likes to kind of thin out his running back room as the season goes on, I don't think that's going to fully happen with this group, but clearly he's kind of taken over that number 1 role. After the last couple of weeks, he's had a really good back-to-back game now, and that's all right. I mean, it doesn't really matter which guy it is as long as they're stepping up, and he had some big plays last night. We really needed it.
And it's always going to be by committee in this running back room. I think that, maybe Jalen Jackson starts on Saturday, but obviously Abu Sama's still going to get carries. Carson Hansen's still going to get his carries, and they're going to figure out who's running well when they go into the second half,
And
which is
Jackson's
fine.
earned that. So
Yes, I think Campbell even actually said he earned that in his press conference. So well said there, Justin. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure all three running backs are going to have better games than the other. Each and every single week it's going to be different. But right now, heading into the meat of real Big 12 conference play, tough road games, it seems like Jalen Jackson's probably your number one. Carson Hansen's your power back. He's your 3-yard running back who lowers his shoulder, and he runs a lot harder than I actually anticipated. I did not think he was that physical. And then Abu, he's a young guy. He's going to get his opportunities this year, and he's still the home run hitter of this team. Like, out of the three, he is the best to break open a 60-yard run, and he's going to probably win a football game one of these next 7 games down the road because of that, like he did at Houston. But yeah, I mean, right now, I don't think he just runs with enough patience. And I think Jalen just does that really well. And he's really good at just taking the 4 yards that he's given on any single down.
on an unrelated note, does it kind of seem like people kind of baby Abu in the way they talk about him? Like, I know he's been struggling this year, and that's fine. He's still a young running back, and we've got other guys clearly. But like, no one wants to like say he's not playing well, and it's fine. And he still has his moments, but this is a deep running back room, and only one. Well, I mean, you can have multiple running backs on the field at one time, but only one guy can get the carries. And if Jackson's hot and if it's working, like that's what they're going to do. It's not means they're going to abandon anybody, but it's just kind of the state of the team right now. And I think that's all you can ask for, especially like you touched on him being an older guy and a patient runner. I think Hansen and Abu are both going to grow into that over time. But if what we got with Jackson's working, I think there's no reason for us to not hype him up and give him the flowers when he's having that success.
Yeah, I would say that, well, it's first of all, the fans don't criticize as much when you're 5-0 on anybody. And I think there's a lot of parts of this team that probably deserve some criticism. I mean, nobody's perfect, right? We're not trying to be mean. We're just trying to be as perfect as we can and play their best football, as Matt Campbell always says. And I think it also helps that, you get Jackson and Hansen who are exceeding expectations at this point. Like, they're just playing better. I don't think Abu's necessarily playing bad. I always was in the party that I know that right now Abu Sama doesn't necessarily know how to stay patient and read his blocks. I don't. I think he wants to hurdle a guy every single chance that he gets.
I like when he hurdles guys.
I do too. It's a lot of fun, but he wants the highlight play, I think, too much and too often. So no, I don't think he's playing bad. It's just, it just helps when these other two are playing better than what we expected as fans. So good on that. Really like what the running back room. Speaking of which, let's turn it over to the receiver room, Justin. When ask and you shall receive. When last week I was calling out for somebody to show up as a third receiver option, and lo and behold, Benjamin Bramer, who was probably our, if you put a list together of preseason 3 best receivers at Iowa State / tight ends, whatever you want to say, Higgins, Knoll, then Bramer, right? Bramer was always going to be our third option, and he played like it yesterday. He finally gets a score. Awesome to see. He had a couple of big-time catches. Really good to see 18 back and being as efficient, because you can tell Iowa State's passing game is so much better when he's an option.
Absolutely. They need him too, because how we've talked about with like the depth of the receiving room isn't where we need it to be. But Higgins and Knoll just attract so much attention from those defenses that it allows Bramer to get open in the middle of the field. And when you can start gashing them in the middle of the field like that, that's even going to open up the running game even more too. Let alone take more pressure off of Higgins and Knoll. But if you can start passing it in the middle of the field effectively, that's going to start making those linebackers think a little more, be a little more hesitant for the run. And I think he could really be a difference maker for our team that isn't talked about enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, in the game, in the second half, me and my buddy Max were bored. So we go downstairs and we walk during halftime. We kind of sit in the, lower level standing room area. And we just kind of stand there on the end zone towards the Sukup end zone complex. And so we can see that kind of side of the field. And it was when Iowa State was driving towards the hillside end zone. And you could see from our view, like how everything was lined up. And you had Higgins in the slot, and they had, I believe, like a nickel linebacker on him and then a safety over the top. They had a safety over the top on every single play when he scored that touchdown. And I said it was third down. I'm like, they're still throwing to him here. Like Rocco's not even thinking about it. He's throwing it to him. And to Jaden Higgins' credit, like he's just so good in one-on-one situations.
He is.
I think he is the best in the Big 12 and those one-on-one jump balls. Not the best receiver. Tet McMillan's fantastic. He's a freak athlete. Travis Hunter is one of a kind, just making guys miss, things like that. But honestly, out of I mean, guys, I have a Big 12 show here at Play the Fight Song. You guys can also go back to our channel, check that out. So I watch a lot of Big 12 football. When you throw it to 9, like he's going to make a play every single game. What is this now? Is he at 6 in a row? 6 in a row 7. Touchdown catches.
I think
it's 6 or 7. You could be right.
Barbecue chicken.
As the kids would say, barbecue chicken. And
I was yelling at it from the stands. The family behind me thought it was pretty funny because it was yeah, you're right. It was every time if the corner was within 5 yards of Higgins and they didn't have a safety like within 10 to 15 yards over top, like they were going to him every time. And it was working.
Yep.
Makes me, I don't know about you, if you want to talk about any of the negatives about the offense of the game yesterday, but
let's talk about it.
Worrying me a little bit, I guess, how tunnel vision Rocco's looked a couple times.
Yeah.
Like we know the Iowa pick was probably his worst one that he's had, but he doesn't necessarily seem to be reading as much as I kind of thought he was going to. Not that he's been doing anything that we don't need him to do, but I kind of think as some of these games ratchet up and the like next weekend, the environment's going to be a lot tougher. I think if defenses are seeing that, they might try to disguise a little more of their defenses, which could get him in trouble.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And we got to remember, I mean, he is still a sophomore. You know, he's still super young. I think it helps and also hurts him that he does have a receiver as good as Jaden Higgins. You know,
it's a good problem to have, but
because he's so good, it's just like you're locked in on him because you know how his success rate of just getting him the ball. So you're more prone to just be looking 9's way pretty much every single time. Like pre-snap read, you're probably thinking in the back of your head, if you're Rocco Beck, like, where could Jaden be on this play? I mean, it's not always going to go to him, clearly. Like, plays are designed for other guys, like Bramer's touchdown when he sneaked into the flat off that pass fake or pass block fake was awesome. And he's obviously looked more towards Jalen as well. But yeah, I do agree. And you said he hasn't really made mistakes yet. One thing I do want to say is I really hope he never makes that throw at the end of the first half ever again.
Do you think he was trying to throw it out of bounds?
I think so. Yeah. I think he just shorted it and he didn't want the intentional grounding.
Can't fault him for that, but that was tough being in the red zone.
When you play marginal football at Iowa State, like next week, like that can't happen ever.
Yep.
Like absolutely ever. We were just lucky we played a dumpster fire team in Baylor who kind of, I mean, they are a dumpster fire. Let's be real here. How we're recording and Dave Aranda still has a job is pretty hilarious to me, actually. So that can't happen. But no, I mean, he's been good and he gets better throughout the game, which is always just really encouraging. Yeah, I think Justin, as fans, we could expect him to show a little bit better starts, you know, when he in the first half. I think still just hasn't tapped into that yet. He kind of found it in the second quarter rather than the third quarter of most games. Like we've seen, he was slow in the first and then got going in the second quarter. So maybe we're getting there. Maybe he'll halfway through the first quarter, he'll find it next week.
I think a little bit of that might be Mauser too, kind of warming up and getting into his schemes as a play caller. Because I mean, a lot of the time, some teams are really good on script, and I guess maybe Mauser being like a new play caller, new offense coordinator, that maybe he's not as good on script, and it takes him a little bit to get into his rhythm as well, which kind of helps the whole offense. But on the Mauser point, I think, I've been kind of blown away by some of the play calls that he's been showing. How many direct snaps did we have to the running back yesterday?
Yeah,
there's like 4 running back direct snaps. He's not afraid to try some new stuff. I'm very much the antithesis of what Tom Manning was. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that helps to have a young mind in his first job where he's probably trying to apply for another job or like audition for another future job. I don't anticipate somebody wanting to be the Iowa State offensive coordinator their entire career. Let's kind of put a bow on the Baylor game. Obviously, we had a lot to cover. We kind of went a little long, but we have the West Virginia Mountaineers to get to. Before I finish on top of that, I just want to give a shout out to Miles Mendezun, the block punt. That completely changed the game. It really did. When I just talked about Iowa State plays in the margins, block punts win you football games. Kyle Conradi goes 2 for 2 on field goals, misses an extra point, but it is what it is there. So special teams wins the game for Iowa State. That is something that Iowa State fans are not always used to seeing, Justin. So that was really awesome to see that. All right, let's get to it. West Virginia's on deck. I want to say this right. If I don't want to offend any West Virginia fans in here, is it Milan Pusker Stadium, Saturday night, 8:00, Morgantown, West Virginia. We will break down the West Virginia Mountaineers here. Let's go back a little bit. They beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater in dominant fashion, 38-14. Garrett Green, as you can see on the YouTube here, rushes for, I think, 60 or so yards. He always knows how to use his legs. We'll talk about him in a second. Throws for 159 yards, no touchdowns. He actually got banged up in this game, and the backup came in, threw a dart for a 10-yard touchdown pass. He had a couple of nice plays as well. So they have a decent little backup quarterback, I noticed. They actually rushed for 369 yards. They were 9 of 15 on third downs, really efficient there. Ollie Gordon, once again, goes for 50 total rushing yards. Alan Bowman throws 2 interceptions. But this is not the breakdown Oklahoma State issues podcast. I will do that on my Big 12 show somewhere in the middle. We always release those, usually every Wednesday or Thursday. So check that out if you want to hear more Big 12 football. But Iowa State heads into Morgantown, Justin, as a 3-point favorite to not, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's that close. And to be honest, I'm a little surprised it's not even a pick 'em. This is a tough football team. This is a football team, Justin, we have not yet seen so far this year. And Iowa State hasn't played this team since 2022, I think. So they didn't play them last year. So any first initial thoughts on West Virginia's win or West Virginia going forward?
Yeah, it was a really impressive win that they had last week. And we kind of knew that in the preseason that this was going to be like our first big conference test, kind of something we've been looking forward to and building up to. I think last year, both of these schools were both kind of the surprises in the conference, and the fact that they never had the chance to play each other. And it's kind of been building to this game for a while. I think this is going to be a pretty big one on Saturday. I know nationally it's not really being talked about very much, but as far as like the Big 12 goes, in the larger scheme of all that, like this is going to be a huge game for conference standing wise. And like I said, just kind of jockeying for conference position, just like bragging rights and where they're at, like in the pecking order. I think this is a really big test for Iowa State and a game that West Virginia's got. I know West Virginia fans, they got to be very confident going into this one.
Yeah, I think they have the right to be. I mean, this team has seen Penn State already this year. They've seen good football teams, and they just went on the road. And
Pittsburgh as well. It's okay.
Yeah, they did play Pitt, and they should have won that game. Thanks for losing me money there, Mountaineers. I had you big in that game. Anyways, yeah, I do think we said it before, right, Justin? Like, yes, Iowa State is 5-0, but I mean, looking at the rest of the schedule, that we've played the 5 easiest opponents we're going to play all year. I mean, Iowa is probably better than said like Cincinnati or Texas Tech, but you know what I'm saying? Okay, Kansas. I did forget about Kansas. Thank you. So maybe we have one more, but then again, that's a road game. It just seems like every game is going to get tougher for this team, and I think this is a real good test to find out if this Iowa State team is actually legit. And dare I say, is if this team wants to claim themselves as the best team in the Big 12, I think this Saturday presents a huge opportunity for Iowa State to really to make that true. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. As far as atmospheres go in the Big 12, a night game in Morgantown is right up there. Maybe some are going to argue it could be the toughest place to play. If you're going to play a night game somewhere, Morgantown's not one you want to be at. If we can go out there and get this one, I think it'll be huge for the team.
Just based on the last road game I went to last year, they also claim that, BYU's got one of the tougher night environments in college football, and Iowa State came out of the gate and was up 14-0 like in
Team
the
was a little
first
different last year.
2 minutes. I agree. I'm just trying to give you the fans a little optimism that this team can get it done. And even though it is a road game, Iowa State's had success. Yeah, because what do we say it going into that Houston game? This is now, I think Campbell's won 6 straight conference games on the road, I believe. So it's working for this team. So we'll see. All right. Let's we always do a couple players to watch, not a ton to break down for this West Virginia team, but it starts with the running backs, CJ Donaldson here, as you can see, quarterback Garrett Green and other halfback Jaheim White. This is their three-headed monster. This team wants to run the football when it's playing its best football. They have a couple of, good receivers like Hudson Clement's a nice young receiver, but it really starts with the running back duo. It's the best duo in the Big 12. It's not the best single running back in the Big 12, Taj Brooks, RJ Harvey, Ali Gordon, but Donaldson and White together are really, really good. Ironically, Justin, they've both rushed for, I think, exactly like 355 yards. Like they're like 5 yards apart from each other in yardages. So that just tells you that they split the time between these two, and either one of them can be game breakers.
They had
Jaheim White's
39 carries yesterday.
Yeah,
That's a lot of carries.
and they were physical, man. Like I'm telling you, go back and watch highlights of the Oklahoma State game if you want. If you're an Iowa State fan, you're curious. Even the backup quarterback took on Oklahoma State's best safety, Trey Rucker, and literally ran him over. Like put shoulder to helmet and ran him over. This team wants to be physical and run the football. Quarterback Garrett Green is not going to blow you away with his arm. He's efficient. He doesn't make mistakes, but he doesn't have the home run ability with his arm, and he wants to use his legs. That's the best part of his game. That's really the best I can describe his offense.
I'm just seeing this as a team. They ran for 389 yesterday.
Yeah. Come on, Justin. You got to listen to me. I'm spitting you the facts. I think it's
a lot of rushing yards.
Do you have, how much did they run per carry? What was their yards per carry? Do you see that?
6
yards per carry. And their left tackle and their left guard both graded the best in college football, according to PFF this weekend. So offensive line play is really good there. They just, Zach Frazier starts for, I think, the Steelers at center. Like they produce really good offensive line talent. Defensively, this team's not great. They're really not. They're one of the worst passing defenses in the country, but Josiah Trotter, Trey Lathan, 2 young linebackers that are going to be really good for them. But defensively, Iowa State should be excited about this opportunity, what they could do on offense, because statistically, it's just not there. So let's do it, Justin. Prediction time, keys to the game, what we do to finish this up each and every single week. Again, shopnorivals.com. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Give us a comment. Score prediction at the bottom. 2 for 2 wins you a hat over at No Rivals. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We cover a lot of good things here at Play the Fight Song for college football content, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in to all of our videos and episodes each and every single week. Keys of the game for Iowa State for me, Justin. I'll list them off and then maybe bounce it off to you on what some of your thoughts are. Here's mine. This is going to be the biggest test for the defensive line this year. This offensive line's better than Iowa. This run game's better than Iowa. And I know some Hawkeye fans watching this might get upset. Yes, you have the best running back compared to West Virginia, but consistently, this is going to be a huge test for Iowa State. We saw what they did against Iowa in the second half on that run game, so they can do it. But the way the defensive line's been playing the last couple of weeks makes me nervous. It makes me nervous on what because this is going to be the best rush offense we've seen so far. Comes down to explosive plays. Iowa State is 35th in the country in passing yards per completion. I believe they're averaging 13 yards a completion. West Virginia ranks 99th in passing defense. Justin, they give up 15 yards per completion. Their passing defense isn't great. Eli Holstein and Pitt really took them apart. Drew Aller had a nice game against them. So the passing defense is not good. And lastly, play marginal football. Like that's what happens when you go on the road. You got to play mistake free or just keep the mistakes low. Justin, did you know Iowa State ranks 5th in the country in fewest penalties? I'm sure that
Jake,
probably doesn't
I did
surprise
not know
you.
that.
I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. So those are my 3 keys to the game. Any others for you that come to your mind?
A key specifically for me that I've kind of worried about, like when we were looking at this game before the season and still looking at it now, is how can we handle Garrett Green and his rushing attack?
Mhm.
Not many people, I feel like nationally, not many people kind of recognize him for how good of a runner he's been, but he had another 86 yards on the ground yesterday. Even their backup quarterback had 46 rushing yards yesterday.
Yep.
And as far as holes go in our defense, as you could see against Houston, running quarterbacks is something that's kind of given this 3-3-5 system a little bit of trouble. If we're not able to keep that in check, I think it could be a real problem for us. But I think that's an aspect of their game. If we can kind of take that away from them, or at least slow it down to a degree that kind of makes them uncomfortable and puts them in more passing position, I think it's going to be huge for Iowa State in that aspect.
And this is Garrett Green's game. It's not like his running ability is not like Sawyer Robertson, guys. Like Sawyer loves to scramble, and that's how he gets his rush yards. This is more like Avery Johnson in Kansas State. We love our running backs, we love our offensive line, we're physical, and these quarterback design runs is what's going to open up the passing game for him. Because he is like Garrett Green. If he gets you 200 yards throwing the ball, that's a really good game for him. 200 yards and no picks is a good game for Garrett, and I think he's fine. I think West Virginia fans are a little higher on his skill set. Maybe that was preseason, but I still think they think highly of him. Is he top 5 in this league? No, but he can win you football games in this league.
It's top
So
half.
absolutely.
Sure.
So that being said, Justin, I will let you go first. Iowa State's a 3-point favorite. Give us a prediction. What do we got on Saturday?
Yeah, I think both of these teams' strengths match up with the other teams' like weaknesses really well. Like we were saying, their running attack. They're probably pretty excited seeing our holes in our defense that they presented. Obviously, our defense played really well up to this point, but if you're going to be able to do something, being able to pound the rock like they do and being able to run it with their quarterbacks like they do, they've got to feel really good. But like you touched on earlier, we got to feel good about our passing attack going into this game too. It's not one that they'll be able to play around with, kind of like the Iowa game where we didn't score a point or whatever till like the end of the first half. If they do that this weekend, I don't think Iowa State's going to be able to overcome it. This West Virginia team's too good. They won't mess around in the red zone and come away with 2 field goals being on the goal line. That's just not something that I don't think Iowa State's going to be able to overcome. That being said, I'm going to continue to trust this Iowa State team where we've seen West Virginia at least have some flaws this year, and we've seen flaws with Iowa State, but they just keep making it work and keep winning. And this is a Cyclone fan perspective. I'm not going to come in here and tell you Iowa State's going to lose. So,
of course.
I think it's probably going to be like 28-27 Iowa State.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be tough. If we're going to win, I don't think we're going to blow them out by any means. I would not be surprised if West Virginia covers, but I'm still going to take the Cyclones, pull it out.
If Iowa State wins 28-27, I don't think I'm getting on my flight Sunday morning because I might have passed away with a heart attack if that happens. We do have actually, Justin, we got to show it on the YouTube here. Here's the coal miner uniforms for West Virginia this weekend. They're going the Iowa State route, wearing the all blacks.
I think they're going to recreate some, was it 2019, 2018 magic that Iowa State, I think, was at home. It was like the second game we'd ever wore. It was the second time we'd ever wore the black uniforms.
It's a great point.
I think West Virginia was like number 6.
Yeah,
number
it's a great point, Justin. They want to return the favor. That's a great
very,
poll.
very similar setup for how this game's going.
Oh, that doesn't make me optimistic, but great poll. Yeah, I do think Iowa State can't start down 14-3 like you did against Baylor, and you can't have the start like you did against Iowa. Completely agree when you said that. But I think Matt Campbell understands that, and I think he's learning, man. I think he really has learned a ton from that 2021 season. It just continues to show like this team is, I think, ready for the moment, and at least ready for this moment. I still don't think the entire national college football fan base will be eyes on Iowa State yet. Iowa State has to win this game for, I think, to turn a lot of national perspective. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I just don't think there's a
So,
whole lot of respect to the conference right now. I know
yeah,
people are kind of coming around to us like we're the favorites in the conference right now, which you can argue that if you want. But yeah, if Iowa State can go get a win like this at night on the road, that'll absolutely turn some heads.
that being said, I got Iowa State. I think we're going to be able to score in this one, Justin. Give me 35-24. I think it's going to be, I think Iowa State's going to pull away. They've adjusted really well, both offensively and defensively in these 5 wins, wherever the inefficiencies were in the first half. Their second half adjustments have been really good. And I think Iowa State's going to be able to make it happen. You're laughing at me.
If we score 35 points in this game, we as a group of guys that we're going with are going to be a problem for the town of Morgantown.
Speaking of which, let's put a bow on this. Management, aka our co-host producer Cam, is gonna be upset we're going 40 minutes, but we're really excited to get down to Morgantown. Again, if you're a West Virginia fan, let us know in the comments if you're going to the game. We'd love to stop by, say hi. I think we're parking in the
Did you get a pass?
Yeah, we did. So we're in the green lot. Justin and I will be there. Our buddies will be there. Really excited to get out there. So looking forward to that. And I think Iowa State and West Virginia fans are very similar minded. I think we both like to enjoy ourselves.
I think
just to put it that way.
I think they're very similar teams like we touched on with like these last 2 years. I feel like we've been building to this game for a while. Both these programs are looking to take that next step in the conference and take a jump and kind of cement themselves in like the new look Big 12. And I think that game's really going to come down to this. Iowa State's had first 5 games of the season, and I think this atmosphere yesterday was like so awesome, and it kind of felt like a celebration of what's happened in these first 5 games, where like that was kind of a bow on the first part of the season, and now this next Saturday is what we're going to really learn if the team is ready to take that next step and to take on this next part of the season that they got coming up. And I'm excited for it. I could not be more happy with how the season started and optimistic with where it's going, but it's tall test in front of them.
Justin, you always end it with good things to say. So let's put a bow on that. Again, guys, let us know in the comments. Prediction time. Does West Virginia get it done? You have Iowa State. Let us in a score. Give us a score prediction as well. Go 2 for 2. ShopNoRivals.com using the code PTFS, and we will get you guys a new hat for those guys. So really appreciate those. My name is Jake. That's JT, my brother Justin. We will see you guys back here maybe next Monday, depending on our travel situation coming back. But really excited for Morgantown. Excited to see what it has to offer. Hope the Cyclones can get a win next week when we touch base with you as we have UCF on the 19th. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. And how I always have to end it, you know what it is. On to Morgantown. Go Cyclones.